Well, hey, what's up? And good afternoon, folks. Happy Saturday. Thank you, Southern Galgin. Woo! Hopping aboard, helping us out on a super sticker train as we're even just getting started. So thank you. Thank you for that. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm really glad to be on the stream with you guys tonight. We're going to be covering Bryan Kohberger and the Idaho 4 case. And if you guys have been paying any kind of attention at all, you can tell that there has been so many leaks in this case. And it's actually something I've been pretty frustrated about. And people have think like I've been really jealous of Ashley Banfield or something stupid like that. I'm not jealous of Ashley Banfield, that she's getting information that I don't have. In fact, like it's never really something we've cared about on this channel. It's feeling like we have to have the first pieces of information. Like that's not really our goal here. We want to provide situations where people can get justice, and we want to continue to be the light of the gospel. It's really what we're here for. But I've been frustrated in the way that Ashley Banfield has had lots of information because I felt like it could possibly compromise the case. There's a non-dissemination order or a gag order, and it seems like almost every single day for the past 2 weeks, Ashley Banfield has had a source that's giving her intimate knowledge of things within the inside of the case that's continued to be leaked. And I don't know, like from different perspectives, uh, where it's coming from for her. I feel like she has a responsibility to not continue to say that it's a anonymous source. However, I don't know how she's actually getting that information. It may actually be an anonymous source to her. And from a journalistic standpoint, if she's genuinely given anonymous information from anonymous sources that she's somehow been able to verify, I do think she should run the stories in the same way that we've been covering the stories that she's covering. However, I have felt like the idea or concept behind holding tight to sources and saying that they're anonymous in situations that are non-life threatening is a little bit against the code of what I believe in. I think that if it's a non-life threatening situation, that your source should not remain anonymous, because it's the only way that we can truly have facts that the public can deal with in a way that wrestles with the truth and the mistruths in any given situation. And so from my perspective, I think she needs to pull the plug on anonymous sources and continue to just share exactly who those sources are. But today, articles coming out from Fox News and other things are saying that the anonymous source that's giving her information is actually a member of law enforcement that's really close to the case. And I find that absolutely troubling. 100 million% absolutely troubling. Hey, Twyla, you said, I hope you got my Zelle. Blessings, everyone. I don't catch too many lives. No, I did get it. Thank you so much. That's such a blessing. Thank you for supporting the ministry. I think you were giving that on behalf of Faith Friday and what we're doing last night. It just means a lot, Twyla. Thank you so much for your support. Yeah, you're saying it's unethical. Leaks need to stop. Yeah, exactly how I'm feeling about this, guys. And I'd love to have your perspective. There's a perspective or an angle about this that I'm not seeing or catching. I'm okay with hearing a different viewpoint about what these sources are. The only sort of detraction that I've had on my viewpoint about these anonymous sources is if I've tried to come forward from my perspective and talk about them. The only sort of detraction that I've had are people who make it personal about me. Like, you're just upset about this. I'm like, I'm not upset about anything. I'm just calling it as I see it. Hey, by the way, guys, I want to let you know, just as we're getting started today, that this channel is totally crowdfunded. Like, we literally cannot do what we do by creating YouTube videos unless people like you choose in your heart to support us. And so I just want to extend an invitation for you to figure out if you feel like you get value from this content and you want to give value back. A couple of different ways that you can support. You can support through PayPal, which is Tyler Feller, CashApp, which is $ Tyler Feller 22, or Venmo, which is at Tyler-Feller. You can also support through Super Sticker or Super Chat. Let me tell you, every Super Sticker, every Super Chat, every Cash App, every single thing that comes through, it makes a significant difference and it means a lot to us. And like I said, we can't do what we do. I cannot continue to create content unless people like you choose to come alongside and support us. And so it would just mean the world if you're watching right now and you're like, yeah, I feel it in my heart, I want to support. If you're watching and you're in a situation where you can't support financially, a very easy and free way to support the video is just by hitting the like button on the video. That's going to help shoot us into the YouTube algorithm. Hey, Southern Gal, thank you. Thank you for that super sticker. It means a lot. Really appreciate that. What a blessing. Okay. Let's go through this article. Idaho murders update. Lawyer warns Bryan Kohberger's leaks could compromise the probe and the prosecution. That's exactly what I've been saying. I think it could absolutely compromise the prosecution. It could absolutely compromise the case. Me, I 100% think it could compromise the case. If you're watching right now, let me know what you think. Do you think that the leaks could compromise the case? I'm curious from your standpoint if you are in a situation where you think it could compromise the case. Hey, Lacey P, thank you for that super chat, super sticker. I really appreciate that. What a blessing. Hey, Jamie, you said I always enjoy and trust your content. Thank you. That is one thing that we try to do, make it enjoyable, of course, but also create content in a way that we're not sharing information that we don't have a source for. And I think that that's really important. And so sometimes we'll say this is a theory, and I'm very clear to say I could be wrong. This is my thought, but when we're talking about things that aren't rooted in a source, we talk about it from being from a source. So thank you for saying that, and thank you for your super chat. Hey, I want you guys to put a 1 in the chat if you think it could compromise the case. Put a 2 in the chat if you think it will not compromise the case. And I'm anxious to read what you have to say. So go ahead and put it in the chat right now. Just waiting on some of those answers to come through. Mostly 1 so far. 1, 1, 1. Compromise, compromise. Compromise, compromise. Miranda saying, nope, it won't. Mimi, Jamie. Most of you guys are saying, yeah, it's going to compromise the case. For those of you that are voting too, I wonder why. I would like to hear your perspective. I'm not disagreeing with your opinion. I mean, I'm obviously someone of the one opinion, but you're entitled to your own opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it for sure, because you might sway me your direction. A veteran defense attorney in the state of Idaho has claimed that continuous leaks from the Idaho murder case could have a dire impact on prosecutors who are seeking justice for the 4 University of Idaho students who were found brutally murdered in their off-campus residence last year. While the judge directly forbade the public disclosure of information of the case against Bryan Kohberger, the gag order itself was facing challenge inside the court. Investigators and attorneys for both sides, as well as the victim survivors and their families, can give very little to almost no details on the case. He says it's a huge issue that this source is leaking information. This is a former attorney of the cult mom, Lori Vallow. It has the potential to compromise the integrity of the investigation and the prosecution of the case. There are concerns that too much exposure to highly publicized crime incident could impact the jury pool in northern Idaho, where more than half live in Moscow, the place where the killings took place. If an employee of my office did that, they would unequivocally be no longer employed. So this attorney is saying, listen, if there's any information that's being leaked out from my office, if anybody in my office was leaking information, they would automatically be fired. And whether or not you think that it's going to impact the case, I would suspect that if you're watching, you would think that if you're not supposed to be leaking information because there's a gag order or a non-dissemination order in place and somebody was leaking information, I think you would understand, as do I, that it's a job disqualifier. In other words, I think you could and should lose your job if you do that, if you're in that situation. News nations are saying sources directly connected to the Idaho quadruple murder say Bryan Kohberger remains confident he's going to be.
What we do know is fair to call a mountain of evidence against Bryan Kohberger in the murders of those 4 innocent college kids at the University of Idaho in Moscow. So I can tell you that he's been talking, and he has been saying that he is, quote,
like when she says he's been talking, it's so surprising to me because who is he talking to? He's locked in a cell all by himself. I saw another video that says he's in the world's smallest jail cell. He's locked in a tiny cell by himself. So the number of people that he could possibly be talking to is very small. be a very limited number of people. So if she's here saying, I can tell you he's been talking, he's confident that he's going to be exonerated. If you're sitting around and you're the prosecution in this case, or you're one of the attorneys that's working on the case, it's actually pretty easy for you to sort of just go down the line and say, okay, I know why. I know who it is that he's talking to. It doesn't have to be a law enforcement agent. Who do you guys think is leaking the information? I'd love to hear your thoughts and theories around that. Hey, Glorindellen, you said they would probably move the trial to another state if needed. I could see it having less exposure in Montana, for example. I didn't know they could move a trial to another state. That's the first I'm hearing of that, Glorindellen. I trust you. But I wasn't sure they can move the trial to another state. Old news pretending it's new. I'm not trying to give old news. I did cover this story of saying he's confident he'd be exonerated, but that's not what I'm talking about right now. Like, I'm talking about the idea of leaking information and looking at who's possibly leaking the information. So it's just the topic of conversation, Emmy. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not pretending it's new. Did I say it was new? I'm not pretending it's new. What am I pretending? Are you saying I'm pretending? I do have some secrets about Bryan Kohberger that's never been released that we're going to talk about in a little bit, but a couple secrets of his, things that we've never talked about. So I don't know what you're talking about. Hey guys, one of the things that we do as a way to get support on the channel is we do this thing called the Super Sticker Train. It's just a way we try to make it fun as we invite people to support us each hour. I'm hoping that this hour, the first hour of our show today, we can get 15 people hopping aboard the Super Sticker Train just as a way to show your support. And so if you're interested in helping us out, we're hoping to get 15 of you this hour on our Super Sticker Train. Oh, you're saying News Nation is doing it. Okay. I don't know. I think people are giving Ashley Banfield information. Leaker is law enforcement. It's verified. Why are they keeping it anonymous? Great question. I don't know why they would be keeping it anonymous too. Very interesting. So it is law enforcement. It has to be law enforcement. Who else could it possibly be, right? Let's listen to the story and just pick up on any context clues. Again, this is an inside source saying that Bryan Kohberger is eager to be exonerated.
Confident that he will be exonerated. And those are his words, exonerated. And I know what you're saying, because if you're a true crime buff and you follow the law, if you're a lawyer, you particularly know there's a difference between being acquitted and exonerated. And he's, a master's in criminology and in a doctoral program before all of this business. And yet he used the word exonerated, not once, but twice. We learned that back in Pennsylvania when he was arrested. That's what his defense attorney, his public defender in Pennsylvania, said, that he looks forward to being exonerated, which I thought was a strange choice of words, because sometimes in common parlance, you'll say that, like, I'm going to be absolved of all of this kind of thing. I'm innocent. But in legal terms, exonerated usually refers to being convicted and then afterwards, upon appeal, being cleared. So I don't know what he's saying. I don't know if he's using the common word exonerated or if he's using the legal word, because he is, criminology master's student, doctoral program, probably knows the difference. But he didn't say the words acquitted. And this is not false bravado, according to our sources. He truly believes he is going to beat the rap. Again, Bryan Kohberger, according to our sources, multiple sources directly connected to this case, saying that he believes, he is confident he's going to be exonerated, that he will beat the rap. Now,
he's confident that he will be exonerated. Well, she's also been covering a lot of the Alec Murdaugh case, but she really is like the only news person covering Bryan Kohberger still. So I appreciate her for doing that. She's continuing to stay on top of it. And I think she, in some ways in her heart, feels like since the family's unable to be a voice, she wants to be that voice for them. And I really appreciate that. I mean, we're in a situation where the Gonzalez family wants to be able to come out and speak, and they're not wanting to be held in contempt of the court. And so, just to honor that, they're making sure that from their standpoint, they're not breaking the non-dissemination order. While we've seen other parents, such as Xana's mom, go on the news multiple times when there was a non-dissemination order in place. So the Gonzalez family is trying to honor the gag order, even though they filed a motion to come past it. Both the prosecution and the defense are in favor of the gag order for the Gonzalez family, so it's likely it will remain. I don't know where that case is at. Maybe Glorndellen, if she's watching, would know more than I do on sort of the whereabouts of what's going on with that case. But very fascinating to break down. But a part of me thinks maybe Ashley Banfield feels like she's able to be a little bit of the voice of the family in this case. And maybe the leak is coming. Some of the leaks that are coming out might be coming from the Gonzalez family to her, and they might be getting it from inside sources. That would make more sense to me. Hey, Lauren, thank you for that super sticker, hopping aboard and helping us out. You too, Tim. Really appreciate your support. So that takes us to 3 on our super sticker train. We're trying to get to 15, hoping that there's 12 more of you guys this hour that want to support us by sending a super sticker.
Here's what I don't know. I don't know how much access he's had to discovery yet. That's his attorney beside him. That's Ann Taylor, the public defender. She is a whip-smart lawyer, one of the best lawyers in Idaho. She is a great attorney. There are the issues that we've discussed on this show, the conflict of interest potential. As we reported last night exclusively, she's met with the judge. The judge has done a review and cleared her of the conflict. That doesn't mean it's the end of the case, because the prosecution, as we're told, is not keen on the idea of her continuing to represent Bryan Kohberger, because who wants?
Well, another anonymous source she had came out and said that Ann Taylor met with the judge in private quarters and decided together that there was no conflict of interest. Meanwhile, the Latah County prosecutor, which is the state in this case, the plaintiff in this case, feels like there is a conflict. And so the judge has cleared any conflict of interest from Ann Taylor from being the lawyer for Bryan Kohberger. And the conflict is clear because she's represented Ann Taylor, the victims of this atrocity's parents in the past. Maybe she shouldn't be able to represent Bryan Kohberger. The judge says there's no conflict. It's fine for her to represent Bryan Kohberger in this case. Hey, Lacey P, you said Bryan Kohberger will go to prison for a long, long time. I think a lot of people agree with you. Obviously, in the American justice system, there's a presumption of innocence, but he has been charged with 4 felony counts of murder for Xana and Ethan and Maddie and Kaylee. And the consequence, if convicted of those things, is likely either life in prison or the death penalty. And so I agree with you, Lacey. Thank you for hopping aboard the super sticker train too. Really appreciate that. Hey, Kimberly, thank you for that super sticker. It means a lot. Somebody the other day said they couldn't believe that I think Bryan Kohberger is guilty because I'm a Christian. I'm like, there's nothing in my Christianity that prevents me from thinking that Bryan Kohberger is guilty. And they said they were unsubscribing from this channel because I wasn't a very good Christian. That doesn't make any sense to me. I felt like I was getting shamed because of my religion. And I don't know what to say about it. There's 995 pages of evidence that's been mounted against Bryan Kohberger that puts him as the likely assailant. Most recently, just a couple of days ago, we found out that he had many pictures of one of the victims on his phone. I think it was Madison. In fact, which is a little bit confusing because I thought Kaylee Gonzalez was the primary target in this situation. Personally, I thought Kaylee Gonzalez was the target from everything that I have seen, and I could be wrong. Like I'm not above from saying I'm wrong. Here's the article. Amy sent me this article. We're trying to just work our way through it. This article, it says, Idaho murders update, lawyer warns Bryan Kohberger's leaks could compromise probe. The news comes after several unnamed sources of the authorities leaked information about the suspect and evidence against him. It even included that Kohberger had stockpiled some of the victims on his phone and sent at least one of the messages over Instagram. Elcock said, "I understand Kohberger fancying himself as intelligent, but as a criminal PhD student, it should be abundantly obvious that maintaining pictures of one of the victims could prove to be problematic for him. If the information contained in search warrant affidavits is accurate, he clearly had at least a cursory understanding of cell phone technology. Perhaps he was just so arrogant he thought he was smarter than investigators, but couldn't help but keep pictures that he could readily access." The thing about the pictures of the victims, I don't think it would be unusual if he had pictures of the victims on his phone, if those pictures became present on his phone after the murders took place. That to me is not mounting evidence against him. He's a criminal PhD student in the neighboring university where they're having class discussions about who did this. And so there's lots of people in America that have pictures of the victims on their phone. I might even have pictures of the victims on my phone because I've screenshot things I've seen on the Facebook page about what took place. However, if those pictures on his phone were there prior to the incident, that's extremely, extremely, extremely unnerving. It means that likely he was an incel. It means that likely he had a bad encounter with one or more of the victims in the house. It means that possibly he was sneaking into the crime lab and looking at surveillance footage and body cam footage that he would have had private access to as a PhD student, because that's what the university have, a crime lab where they get access to that. We know that there were at least 3 occasions in September where there's body cam footage of 1122 King Road. I mean, there's pieces of evidence after pieces of evidence after pieces of evidence that would make it really alarming if those photos were on there beforehand. It meant that he had a fancy, an affection towards one of them, if not 2 of them in the house. So it's creepy. Kohberger is accused of sneaking in the house in the early mornings. This is a post from Kaylee Gonzalez. My goodness. Oh my goodness. It's just hard to look at them for me, even just take a second. I just was taking a second in my mind and just thinking about 3 of these 5 are no longer living. Just looking at this picture. It's really sad for me. Just take a second and think about their families and what those families are going through. My gosh. It is heartbreaking. Dear golly. Her hair. It's so funny. I didn't notice it until like 2 weeks ago. As many times as I looked at this picture. A piece of her hair flying up in the air. But these 4 in the middle are no longer alive. It's just absolutely heartbreaking. Hey, Long Island, New York. Thank you for that super sticker. Woo! Let me see. Jamie gave one earlier that was $9.99. So you're the number 1 super sticker of the day so far by 1 penny. Thank you for that. That takes us to 6 on our super sticker train too, by the way. And it means we are 9 more away from our goal. I want to show you guys something too that Jennifer Coffendorfer posted. Type in her Twitter real fast. Which time I've been trying to type in her Twitter. It's not been loading. Okay. Man, I really like Jennifer Coffendorfer. She posted something I thought was really interesting. Absolutely 100% made my day. The Gonzalez family page. Theodora Maddie K Stevenson arrived at 4:21 a.m. Oh, Olivia had her baby. Look. And the middle name Maddie K. How fitting is that? Wow. This is Kaylee Gonzalez's sister, Olivia. She was pregnant during all of this fiasco. She had her baby 1 minute ago. I'm just kidding. At 4:21 a.m. And they named her middle name Maddie K. How cool is that? Wow. I love that. That's not what I was trying to show you. I didn't. Jennifer Coffendaffer just received news that caused goosebumps and relief simultaneously while I was being interviewed by True Crime. Today, 1122 King Road will be torn down this semester and land donated to the school. Hallelujah. Yeah, I was showing that. I made a video this morning. I don't know if any of you guys saw it. I would encourage you, if you haven't seen it, to go check it out. But essentially, the people who owned that building, they live in Colorado. The house where this atrocity took place, they weren't sure what to do with the building. And so they ended up donating it to the school, and they're allowing the school to decide what to do with it. And so I showed the paperwork actually, because somebody was saying, no, the school bought it. School didn't buy it. The person who owned the house donated it to the school. The school has made the decision that they're going to tear down the property, and they're going to canvass students at Idaho University and ask them what they think should go in the place. And that makes me feel so good, because one of the things that I've been pushing for in cases like this is that there definitely needs to be facilities that house evil atrocities torn down, whether it's a school shooting or a stabbing nightmare. Those buildings need to come down. There's nasty mojo in the atmosphere, and it needs a fresh start. There needs to be a death and a burial to what took place in those houses. And I think the best move to take place is for that house to be demolished personally. Nobody needs to be reminded of what took place. And it's interesting too, because the report was saying that they're deciding to tear down the house because people keep showing up, and especially young people showing up and doing TikTok dances in front of the house. How disgusting is that? That there's teenagers or young adults that are going out there that are showing up to do TikTok dances in the yard of this house. It really hurts my stomach thinking about it, to be honest. Angela, that's a great idea of what can go on that property. Actually, a dog park. I think it's a really solid idea for there to be a dog park there. I love that idea. Somebody was saying a garden. I'm not sure. It seems cold there a lot, and there's a lot of snow. And so, m- people typically live there from like August to May, and it's like fall and winter for the most of the months that people are there. And so I think a dog park would be a really good idea to go there. Somebody else said a police substation. I'm like, that's not a bad idea to have a little police substation there. Suzanne says, Tyler, I'm wondering what you think about the prosecution attorney. I'm scared that he might not have what it takes to go against the other attorney. Yeah, you're probably right, because Ann Taylor seems vicious. But I think, what's his name, Bill Thompson, the Latall County prosecutor, I think he has some cards up his sleeves too. And besides that, there's so many pages of evidence. It's not, it's not going to be like what we're seeing in the other case that we're following, which is the Alec Murdaugh case. I'm not going to be surprised if Alec Murdaugh wins his case. I mean, I think he did a really great job as a witness on the stand, causing at least one juror to have some doubt. I don't think that Bryan Kohberger has the savviness to be able to do that. So I think Ann Taylor may be the better attorney, but Bill Thompson has 9 out of 10 of the cards in his hand. So that's my thought. How are you guys doing? Good? Hopefully you guys are doing good. Glad you're here on the stream with us. Okay, I'm going to try to show you what I was trying to show you. Photo perfectly illustrates the darkness, the emptiness, the evilness of this case. A house once brimming with happiness, life, and festivities is dead and boarded up. Yeah, that's not what I'm trying to show you, but still, it is. I mean, it's just. Not only is it dead and boarded up, there's fencing all the way around it. It's a great point, Southern Gal. A prosecution attorney's office should never take a case to trial if they think they cannot win it. It's a great point. Southern Gal, I think sometimes you were supposed to be an attorney. And I think if you haven't gone to law school, you maybe should. Have you thought about being an attorney? I just feel that for you. Like, I really am like, man, I wish she was an attorney. You was an attorney? I didn't know that. Okay, this is the one I was going to show you guys. It was from a couple of days ago. Jennifer Coffendoffer says, I've talked so much about Papa Roger. If Bryan Kohberger is Papa, Papa's writings are dynamite evidence for the prosecution. Just before his arrest, Papa was kicked out of his Facebook group and became the admin of his own group. Please note the cover photo of the Idaho 4. Now, this is interesting. This is the cover photo of the Facebook page that Papa Rogers started. If you don't know who Papa Rogers is this person who was on social media that apparently seemed to have every detail about what took place in these murders pretty accurately. And he was penning them online in the Idaho 4 Facebook groups pretty consistently. And over the course of about 2 months, he ended up starting his own Facebook group. And this that you're looking at right now is a screenshot of photos from Instagram that was the cover photo. And so here's the thing, guys. If this photo is on Bryan Kohberger's phone, it's likely that he was the person who started that other Facebook group. And it would definitely indicate that he is Papa Rogers. I think Bryan Kohberger is Papa Rogers personally. That's my thought. I could be wrong, but you let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think that Bryan Kohberger is Papa Rogers? Put a 1 in the chat for yes, put a 2 in the chat for no. I think he was Papa Rogers. Personally, I really do. There's a lot of things that come out that make me think he was Papa Rogers. A lot of information that's came out to indicate that he was Papa Rogers. Most of you guys are saying, yeah, you think it was he was Papa Rogers. So let me see what people are commenting and saying. We the People says, this is rumor and speculation. Papa Rogers showed up on Twitter recently and changed his name to Chef Dizzy. I'm sure you know this, Jen. No proof that it's him. I have interaction with him and precious wild claims. Not credible. Moscow Police Department has been taken into custody. He's facing 2 murder charges. Huh? That doesn't make any sense. Yawn, Papa Coffendoffer is boring. She said, your tweet got a smile out of me. I find it intriguing. Not trying to convince anyone, but provoke critical analysis. I'm on the fence, looking into recent assertions as this account is being linked to. I've always said Maddie was the target. He liked the last photos of her, 5 photos of her, and did not like any of the other girls' photo. This is a snapshot of her page. I believe it was him. His posts were always wild on Facebook. Definitely signs of a stalker. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure. Let's watch the news report that said he had photos of her on his phone.
I have some additional reporting to add to this tonight. New and unique reporting that News Nation has discovered, and it has to do sources close to the investigation telling us that the person who is featured on Bryan Kohberger's phone, the female victim who was featured on Bryan Kohberger's phone, is the same person that he was reaching out to on social media. And also that the photos were not taken by Bryan Kohberger, they were downloaded off of that victim's Instagram. So he had taken the pictures from that victim's Instagram. And then I also have this reporting that Bryan Kohberger followed both Kaylee and Maddie on Instagram, but Kohberger liked every one of Maddie's photos. Maddie's on the right, her best friend Kaylee's on the left.
But Kohberger liked every one of Maddie's photos, which goes against my theory that Kaylee was the victim. Bryan Kohberger was the one. I mean, Brian Ensign was the one who said on the news that it was confirmed that Kaylee Gonzalez had the most significant wounds. So
Kohberger had liked all of Maddie's photos compared to liking just a couple of the ones on Kaylee's account. He followed both, but he liked all of Maddie's, and compared to liking just a couple of them on Kaylee's account. So that may give us a little bit more insight as to potentially who it was that he had downloaded and kept on his phone, which female victim's pictures were on his phone. Thank you for watching.
exactly, Cougar Chick. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like that part makes it confusing to me.
I wanted to come
And
in
the
person.
thing is too about like Bryan Kohberger that I don't understand. It's like there's so many fake Bryan Kohberger Instagram accounts. I think saying that he liked certain people's photos seems really difficult because I could never personally find which Bryan Kohberger Instagram account was his true account, his real account. So I don't know. Southern Gal says, are there any interviews with Bryan Kohberger family members? They've been silent as a mouse. Quiet mouse, still mouse. They've been silent and still. The only information I found from the mom was like from a while ago when there was a school shooting. She published a poem that her daughter had written in the local newspaper. She had written on a Reddit feed when he went off to college to Washington State University, talking about how worried she was about him being lonely, which to me is a little unusual given that he was 28 years old, 27 years old when he went. So I find that to be really confusing. But no, there hasn't been any family statement at all, except for in the very beginning from the Pennsylvania attorney Jason Labar. And he just said they're praying for the victims and that we need to remember that Bryan Kohberger is under the presumption of innocence, essentially. So that's it. By the way, thank you for your super chat. That is number 7 out of 15 on our super sticker train. We're only 8 away from reaching our goal. I'm wondering if there's 8 more of you that want to hop aboard the super sticker train and send a super sticker or a super chat in the next 8 minutes. 8 for 8. Wouldn't that be amazing if we can do that? Just as a way to show your support to the channel.
To the crime scene on King Road in Moscow, Idaho at night, sort of eerily peaceful at this crime scene. This is an idea of what it would have looked like the night of the murders. The media circus has left. I am the only reporter here right now, and you can hear a pin drop out there.
Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gonzalez were brutally stabbed to death in the middle of the night, and we still don't know why. What was the motive? Who was the target? Now, these are some of the biggest unanswered.
Do you guys know what the motive is? The only motive that even makes sense in my mind is the fact that he was potentially, we don't even know, an incel, involuntary celibate, and there just is like a classification of young men that think should kill people who don't want to date them. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Angela Vincent, for that super chat. Really appreciate that. That's number 1 on our goal to get to 8. Amy Harris, you're number 2 on our goal to get to 8. Really appreciate that, guys. That's 25% of the way there. We're 2 out of 8. You guys are rocking and rolling. Hey, we only need 6 more. I wonder if we can get 6 more in the next 6 minutes.
Answered questions in the case of the Idaho 4. And I've waded through all of the information out there about the crime, the victims, and the suspected killer, Bryan Kohberger, to piece together some answers. This attack was brutal. It was extremely violent and it was personal. But why did the killer do it? Could the answer be as simple as a crime of passion? Well, just days after the murders, Bryan Kohberger allegedly told his neighbor just that. Now, this was weeks before cops would zero in on him as their prime suspect. The neighbor told a CBS reporter that Kohberger brought up the murders in casual conversation and said, quote, "It seems like they have no leads, like it was a crime of passion." The 28-year-old PhD student has been...
Wasn't that weird that Bryan Kohberger told his neighbor that it was a crime of passion? What exactly is a crime of passion? In my mind, a crime of passion is when you commit a crime against somebody that you are passionate towards, like a loved one. Do you get what I'm saying? Help me understand that. A crime of passion. Why would he say that? I don't fully understand. Hey, DKev. Really appreciate that. Hopping aboard Super Sticker Train, helping us out. You too, Stardust. Wow, you guys are awesome. That takes us to 4 out of 8. We only need 4 more to hit our goal. You guys are rocking and rolling. I wonder if we can get 4 more in the next 4 minutes. We're going to supersede our goal. That'd be really amazing. I guess you could passionately hate somebody for rejecting you, right? That's what you're saying. Trina said, "I love your show, Tyler." Thank you so much, Trina. The mayor of Moscow called it a crime of passion. He did, didn't he? It means mad as heck. I feel like he was trying to be methodical about this. If he genuinely stalked them 12 times, Is there a fine line between love and hate? So somebody said, is there, Stargirl, a fine line between love and hate? I feel like two way different emotions to me. Hey, Taryn, thank you so much for that. Really appreciate that. Only 3 more. Who are going to be the lucky 3 people?
Described by those who know him as being pretty awkward, particularly with women. In the weeks since his arrest, only one ex has come forward, and the term ex is really an overstatement. These two went on an awkward first date many years ago, and that is as far as it went. And a brewery owner in Pennsylvania claims that Kohberger made his female employees and customers uncomfortable by pressing them with questions about their living situations and getting irritated when his advances were rebuffed. So we've got this picture of a guy who isn't great with women and may have had an axe to grind, particularly if one of the female victims turned him down or ignored him, which is my working theory. Plus, some experts think that the killer was satiating a sexual desire.
I don't understand that. Satiating a sexual desire, but there was no sign of sexual activity with Bryan Kohberger and any of the victims. According to Dale Carson, who we had on the show, in fact, it was the most popular show I've ever had. When we've done the replay of his interviews, they've gotten like 300,000 views. Dale Carson said Bryan Kohberger was in and out of the house in 6 minutes. Hey, Deanna, thank you for that super sticker. Really appreciate that. Jill, thank you for that. That takes us to 7 out of 8. We're only 1 away. Somebody gets to be the lucky number 8. That'd be amazing. He was used to being rejected, Lisa, but what's interesting is he told his student, his peer, he was a student, and he told this other guy that was a student, I guess it's a peer, right? He told a friend, kind of, not really friend, hey, guess what? I can get any girl I want at the bar. That's what he said. And to our knowledge, well, I actually have a video. He did have a girlfriend, and I'm going to show, or a article. He did have a girlfriend. I'm going to share that with you in just a second. A girlfriend who became a lesbian. But that's what the article says, at least. But he could never get any girl except for that one, from everything that I know about. Hey, Linda, how are you? Good to see you. Hey, Enoch. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for that. Really appreciate that. Yeah, he thought that he could. That's what's weird. I feel like there's a lot of things about Bryan Kohberger that's just not rooted in reality. He says he can get every girl, but he can't get any girl from everything that I've been able to piece together. So
None of the victims were sexually assaulted, and criminologist Dr. Casey Jordan believes that the murderer was supplementing the act of stabbing for the act of sex. Up to this point,
So basically, stabbing is to what sex is to a normal person. That's what stabbing is to Bryan Kohberger. That's hard for me to even process how to make sense of that. But if that's what they're saying,
none of the evidence that we are aware of reveals a direct link between the victims and the suspect. Kaylee's family said that they don't really recognize Kohberger at all, but they added that they are seeing connections between him and Kaylee. And sources say he followed all three of the female victims on social media. Now, a bunch of fake accounts have popped up on Instagram purporting to be him, but one account at crim.kohberger may actually be the real deal. A source with a connection to the investigation also came forward saying that the suspect allegedly messaged one of the girls repeatedly on Instagram and got no response. Now, the messages were described as being innocuous, just a, hey, how are ya? But they were ignored, which may have been interpreted as rejection. Even if Kohberger
see, that's weird. If he somehow like stumbled upon them because he was looking at like Washington State University and Idaho University football game or something and saw different people's Instagrams and stumbled upon these girls, it went to their page and started messaging them, and their messages went into the other folder. Like, I'll show you. I probably can't show you because I don't know how I'm gonna get my phone up there. But even on my own Instagram, like when I go to my messages, you're not gonna be able to see them. Way over here, there's a button called requests. They probably have all kinds of requests. I have all kinds of message requests on my phone. And I don't have time to sit there and go through all the different message requests on Instagram. It's just not something that I do. And they're likely not going through all their message requests either. And so is he a PhD student who his former professors say he's one of the most brilliant students they've ever had? He's dumb enough to think that if he sends somebody a message that it's like no big deal, it's no problem. It didn't go to their message request folder. It doesn't even make sense. I mean, it's like when I send a message to somebody that's not following me on Instagram, I already know it's probably going to their message request folder. And like me, they probably don't go through all their message requests, especially if there's somebody who has a bigger following. And I believe Kaylee Gonzalez had a little bit of a following before all of this took place. Now, all their Instagrams have a lot of followers. But I believe before this took place, she had a little bit of a following because she was really active on social media. Hey, Star Girl, you said I wish I could give more. Great life. You know what? Every $1.99 counts. What do you say? Is that a British pound? What do you guys say? We say buck. Is it quid? What's a quid? Is that what you guys say? But every $1.99 counts. That's what we say in the United States. Hey, Cherie, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. MJ, woo! Thank you for your super sticker. I really appreciate your support. You guys are awesome. You say, I got messages from people saying I ignored them. Creepy. I just block people like that. Yeah, exactly. So like apparently Bryan Kohberger had messages like, hey, how are you doing? Hey, how are you doing? Hey, how are you doing? A million times. And they probably weren't reading them, or they were really creeped out. Like, let's just be honest. I don't think any of these young women would be interested in dating Bryan Kohberger. I just don't. see it happening. And so it's really kind of a creepy situation. A quid is a pound. So a quid is a buck. Because a buck is a dollar. So a buck is to a dollar what a quid is to a pound. So I could say a quid 99. We say a buck 99. A buck can be a quid.
Did follow the victims on Instagram. How he came across them in the first place is another piece of the mystery. Bryan was new to the area, having moved to nearby Pullman, Washington in June of 2022 to begin his doctorate in criminology at Washington State University. WSU and the University of Idaho, where the victims were students, are just 10 miles apart with pretty much nothing but farmland in between. Moscow, Idaho is this really quaint, inviting, charming little town, while Pullman is just kind of cold by comparison. WSU students often go to Moscow to eat and shop and hang out and things like that. Kohberger is also a strict vegan. When I was staying in the area, I looked for vegan restaurants and there just weren't any. The best you could hope for are vegan menu options. And one of the first places that pops up when searching for that is the Mad Greek in Moscow. And that is where two of the victims, Maddie and Xana, worked.
What was interesting about the Mad Greek is one of the employees came out and said, yeah, Bryan Kohberger came in here twice, was very particular about the vegan pizza that he wanted. And then the owner came out and said, Bryan Kohberger was never in our restaurant. That was fake news. How do you know who's been in your restaurant or not? I've been to all kinds of restaurants. You plop a little cash down. There's no way to know if somebody's been in there or not. So I didn't really appreciate the owner of the Mad Greek coming out and saying that. They just didn't want unnecessary attention. So there you go. A quid 99. Is that word quid like slang? Like buck is slang. Dollar is formal. So $1.99. Would it be 1 quid 99? Is that, or is quid slang like buck is slang? Like buck is just a slang. I don't even know what buck means. Hey, Amy Heights, thank you for that super sticker. Really appreciate that. Woo-hoo-hoo. Southern Gal says a buck dollar don't do much nowadays. That's a fact. But a buck deer will feed you. Also true. Oh, quid is slang. See, I'm learning over here. Ya boy is learning.
A former employee told People magazine that Kohberger came in more than once for a vegan pizza. Now, the owner of the Mad Greek swiftly denied that story, but the report also said that police are aware of the visits and took surveillance video from the area. From the get-go, police were convinced that these murders were targeted. Now, law enforcement never said who they believed the target was, but a lot of people think it was Kaylee Gonzalez. Now, determining who was killed first could be the best indicator as to figuring out the killer's main target. And one of these surviving roommates told cops that she was awoken around 4 a.m. to noises coming from the third floor. Now, that is where Kaylee and Maddie were sleeping. At the time, she thought it was Kaylee playing with her dog, but then she heard one of the girls saying something chilling. Someone is here. The killer also dropped a knife sheath on the bed next to Maddie's body, so it's likely that this was the spot he first removed the murder weapon from the sheath. Now, the ferocity of Kaylee's wounds suggests two things. The first is that the majority of the killer's rage was directed at her, and the second is that she may have been the first kill when the murderer was at his strongest. Kaylee's dad has also pointed out, if those girls weren't a target, the killer would have had no reason to go up to the third floor. Xana and Ethan were found on the second floor, nearest to where cops think the murderer entered and
It's creepy to think that Bryan Kohberger knew if Kaylee or Maddie, either one was his target, which floor their bedroom was on. I mean, it's likely that he was deeply stalking them. He was probably intimately aware of their life. And it's sickening and it's heartbreaking and it's sad to know that he knew that they were on the third floor.
exited. All of that points to the killer starting the stabbings on the third floor with Maddie and Kaylee. Now, DNA transfer from victim to victim will forensically determine the order of death, but that will not come out until trial. So if the third floor victims were the main target, why were Xana and Ethan also killed and 2 other roommates left alive and unharmed? Maddie, Kaylee, and Ethan were all killed in bed, but Xana was likely up and awake. She was on TikTok minutes before being stabbed to death, and she had defensive wounds, and her body, unlike the others, was found on the floor. The surviving roommate heard crying coming from Xana's room after the noises upstairs, and the killer, she said something to the effect of, "I'm going to help you." Prior to her death, Kaylee Gonzalez mentioned having a stalker. She was referring to 2 guys in particular who police found and cleared, neither of whom were Bryan Kohberger. But just because that lead didn't pan out doesn't mean that the victims weren't being stalked. According to law enforcement, the suspect's phone pinged in the area of the home 12 times in the months before the murders. And Kaylee's family said Kohberger allegedly got so close he connected to their Wi-Fi with his own phone. And this particular home at 1122 King Road is just an easy target. It's 3 floors, it has a really unique layout, and it's situated on a hill.
Where I'm standing is the vantage point that the alleged killer would have had if he parked back here, which is where the Hyundai was seen and what cops believe happened.
And depending on where you stand, you can see directly into every single window. Now, as I mentioned, the layout of the house is strange. The first floor has 2 bedrooms. The second floor also has 2 bedrooms, as well as the main living area, which is accessed by this sliding glass door in the back. There are also 2 bedrooms on the 3rd floor. The timeline of the murders has been narrowed down to less than 20 minutes between 4:04 a.m. and 4:20 a.m. Now, in order to get in, kill 4 people, and get out in that time frame with such a strange floor plan, the killer had to have had.
Well, the floor plan's easily available online. Yeah. So I think Bryan Kohberger absolutely had the floor plan.
A solid idea of how this house was laid out. Now, this was a popular off-campus party house, and based on everything that I have learned and researched, it's plausible that the killer had been inside maybe more than once, just disguised as a party goer.
The reason I would disagree about Bryan Kohberger going into the house for a party would be, and just being disguised as a party goer, is that he's super awkward. So from my perspective, he is really, really an awkward guy, really an awkward guy. And I don't know if he would be able to disguise himself without people being like, who is this creep? People who are at the party would be like, yes, that guy's been here before. We remember him at the party. I don't think he was at a party, although it's possible. I mean, it's definitely possible. What do you guys think? Do you think Bryan Kohberger has gone to a party at 1122 King Road before or not? Put a 1 in the chat if yes, put a 2 in the chat if no.
Law enforcement has searched high and low for the military-style K-bar knife that the suspected murderer used. It's a standard issue knife given to members of the Marine Corps. The sheath has this insignia of the military branch stamped on the side. The medical examiner confirmed that the victims died by multiple stab wounds by a fixed blade knife in the upper body and torso. Now, the sheath was dropped next to Maddie's body, and it contained the killer's DNA. Unfortunately, though, for investigators, the murder weapon didn't turn up at the crime scene or during a search of Kohberger's apartment and office on the WSU campus. Now, his white Hyundai Elantra was dissected by a forensics team as well. And it's possible, albeit unlikely, that the knife was recovered there. But the results of that search are currently under a gag order. Now, the route that police believe
I don't think they found the knife. It wasn't on the document that they did release.
The alleged killer drove from the scene of the crime back home is this long, winding, roundabout journey through just pitch black, sprawling farmland.
This is the house behind me. It's a very sort of desolate, just residential area. It looks like it's the middle of the night here, but it is just about 6 p.m. and there is little to no foot traffic or cars coming down
Kohberger and his father also drove cross-country in December from Washington to Pennsylvania, which would have provided ample opportunities to potentially discard a murder weapon. The next court date is a ways away, June 26th, but this hearing will lay out almost everything that the prosecution has on Kohberger, including a boatload of information we don't yet know about. The probable cause hearing usually happens within 2 weeks of arraignment, but Kohberger waived his right to a speedy trial. So in this case, the prosecution and the defense have roughly 5 months to prepare. When the date finally comes, both sides will present evidence and call witnesses so a judge can determine whether or not there is enough for this case to go to trial, and we expect it to. Now, as it stands right now, Bryan Kohberger is facing 4 counts of first-degree murder and felony burglary, and he hasn't yet entered a plea.
Hey guys, very interesting piece of information that I found as I was just trying to do my due diligence and continuing our search for information in the Bryan Kohberger case. I came across this article that alleges that Bryan Kohberger had a girlfriend named Ashley Flugel who died in 2018 from a heroin overdose. And to my knowledge, from every single thing that we've investigated or read so far, that there hasn't been any evidence whatsoever of Bryan Kohberger having a girlfriend until now. So let's read the article and unpack it together. It says, "Who is Ashley Flugel, the alleged gay girlfriend of Bryan Kohberger, who passed away in 2018 following a heroin overdose?" Since the day he was detained and identified as the key suspect in the shocking Idaho triple murder investigation, Bryan Kohberger life has come under scrutiny, along with that of Ashley Flugel. The suspect, who was detained on December 30th of last year, is suspected of 4 first-degree murders and 1 felony burglary. Now, I was totally unaware that he had ever had a girlfriend. It's the first time that I'm ever coming across this. I'd love to hear it in the comments section if you've ever caught whiff that he's had a girlfriend before. But I could understand that if he's addicted to heroin, that maybe he finds a girl who's also addicted to heroin and they live in the misery of what it means to be an addict together. That's not surprising to me at all. And the reason that people haven't came out and spoken about it was because, well, she died of a drug overdose, which is likely what would have happened to Bryan Kohberger had he continued down the path of using heroin. Heroin is one of the most, if not the most dangerous drugs that exists out there. And once somebody gets hooked on it, it's like only a 9% chance from my research that you ever come off of it. 91% of people addicted to heroin are stuck on heroin for their whole life, which is absolutely horrifying. Now, Bryan Kohberger can't possibly be living a fantastic life, right? The 28-year-old accused of killing Madison, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan was himself a criminology student, which was the first startling revelation. Since then, a lot of shocking details have came to light. Initially, it was claimed that Bryan Kohberger was somewhat of a loner, but recent revelation indicates that this was untrue. He reportedly had a close relationship with Ashley Flugel. This was one of his classmates. Also, a very contradictory claim that Flugel was Kohberger's only girlfriend, but was gay on Twitter. So, I don't know. Was Ashley Flugel his girlfriend, then became gay? Was she bisexual? Who knows? So, who is Ashley Flugel, the gay girlfriend of Bryan Kohberger? According to the Idaho Statesman, Flugel was Kohberger's high school friend, and the two used to do heroin together. She was charged with many drug offenses in 2017 and 2018, which required her to appear in court. But the 23-year-old was discovered dead inside of a house on the 1200 block of Lindsay Lane in Elliott Chestnut Township in May of 2018, before she ever had an opportunity to appear in court. She allegedly overdosed on drugs accidentally, which caused her death. She graduated from Pleasant Valley High School and was a member of the Catholic Church. Bryan is adamant that he did nothing wrong, despite being the only suspect in the case. Kohberger has not yet made any statements. Kohberger, however, was represented by Jason Labar, who remarked Kohberger is excited to be forgiven of these charges and looks forward to settling these matters as swiftly as possible. So I think it's really an interesting article that's came to light. Ashley Flugel. It's my first time ever hearing anything about if Ashley Flugel was in a relationship with Bryan Kohberger. I'll show you some pictures of Ashley Flugel. You guys can make a decision for yourself if you think that they were involved. This is a picture of her. Let me see if I can go through some other photos of her. Let me see. Here you go. Another photo of her. Another photo of her. Another photo. Another photo. This is Ashley Flugel. This is the apparent. I mean, she's no longer living, but this is the apparent girlfriend of Bryan Kohberger. I'm looking to see if there's any sign that Bryan Kohberger was attached to her. She said, 1 year ago today, I'm so confident. Thanks to my girlfriend, makes me feel good about myself. So she's clearly lost a lot of weight. So that could be another key. Her and Bryan Kohberger could have bonded over the fact that they needed to lose weight, right? Bryan Kohberger was way overweight, lost a bunch of weight. Ashley Flugel appears to be not way overweight, but a little overweight, lost a bunch of weight, got in better shape. Let's see what else is there. Pocket knife. What does this say? Drugs, murder? My show, Orange is the New Black. Oh, it's a TV show. And that's what they were in for, I guess. My gosh, that's super creepy. I'm just looking to see if there's any indication about Bryan Kohberger and her. Breed On. Thanks for the love, Breed On. Yeah, these are really old. And I mean, you could tell these are really old. It's like from 5 years ago Instagram posts. Scrolling through to see if there's any sign of Bryan Kohberger. That's really obvious on the outset. I wonder who those people are. Huh. This is her best friend, she says. Jesse, 2 years ago, his life was lost. So it looks like another friend of theirs had died from a drug overdose or something like that. I wonder who these people are. These two kids. My man crush Mondays. Ralph and Justin. Wondering if she ever did one of these about Bryan Kohberger. Just continue to scroll through. You think this guy in the middle is Bryan Kohberger? Kind of looks like him. I don't know. I don't think, well, she posts a lot of man crush Mondays for somebody that's gay. So I think it is possible that her and Bryan Kohberger could have been together. So I don't know, guys. You let me know what you think. Was this Bryan Kohberger's only girlfriend he's ever had? There's no way to really know. From my perspective, it's quite possible Bryan Kohberger and Ashley Flugel at one point were in a relationship together. If there's any significance to it, I'm not quite sure, but I'd love to hear your perspective of it. Feel free to leave a comment in the comment section, and it really helped me out just to get your vantage point of what you think is going on there. Hey, Sherry, you said the Vans shoe print, the crime scene, Kohberger's Vans. I definitely think that that's a point of evidence that needs to be talked about. I think that that Vans print and that Kohberger obviously has Vans can be matched up. I do think that that's a really important piece of information. Yeah, Lacey, you said Kohberger is creepy. I agree. He is very there's a look in his eye that, in my opinion, Alec Murdaugh has too. There's a similar look in the eye of Bryan Kohberger that Murdaugh has as well, from my perspective. Thank you, Lacey P, for that super chat too. What do you guys think about the girlfriend thing? I wasn't able to read the comments because I was so laser focused. You said, do gay women have relationships with straight guys? I don't. The point I was trying to make, Lauren Dellen, and probably not. I don't think they do. But she had a lot of what's called man crush Mondays on there, and so I was like, I don't know. I don't know if she was totally gay. Could have just been a drug friend. Drug friend. Drug friend. I've never even heard the word drug friend before, but considering a lot of you guys are writing drug friend in the comment section, it makes me feel like drug friends are a real thing. So I'm going to just say, I guess they're just drug friends. Okay. Thank you guys for hopping aboard our last super sticker train. We're now heading well into our second hour of the show. And in this second hour, I would love it for us to do a second super sticker train. This is just an invitation for people to come alongside and support us. We're totally crowdfunded, which means we can't do what we do unless people like you come alongside and support us. Like literally, we cannot continue to create content unless people like you support us. There's several ways you can support us. One is through PayPal. Cash Apps may be the best way to support us because there's no fees attached to it. It's $ Tyler Feller 22. Venmo, which is at Tyler-Feller, is another way that you can support us. We also have what's called a super sticker train. It's where we give an invitation for people to support us. I'm hoping that in this hour, we can get 15 people on the super sticker train just as a way to show your support. Who wants to be one of the 15? Go ahead and send a super sticker, and that would really help us out. Okay. A free way to help us out, too, by the way, is just by hitting the like button. I know not everybody's in a financial position, especially with like inflation and stuff, to be able to support. This is a special that came out from the local news in Seattle. Obviously, keeping a close eye on this because of the proximity of Washington State University. And so they did a 30-minute special on Bryan Kohberger. I want to watch it with you guys. It has never.
We begin with breaking news out of North Idaho.
Just a moment ago, Moscow police confirmed 4 people were found dead in a home.
Xana Kernodle.
Xana, you will not be forgotten. You have impacted so many lives and have given people so much love. I hope I can make you proud and try to leave an impact on this world and on people like you did.
Ethan Chapin.
We are eternally grateful that we spent so much time with him because time is precious and it's something you can't get back.
Madison Mogan.
So just smart and funny and beautiful. She was just nice to everybody.
Kaylee Gonzalez. They shared everything. They came here together. They eventually get into the same apartment together. And in the end, they died together.
What, dude, Kaylee Gonzalez's dad always dropping information, like, you know what I mean? Like in that, he was dropping information, little bombs to us. Like that's the first time we had known that they were dying together, literally in the same bed. One thing that I appreciated about this visual, I don't know what the ding meant. I don't know if there was any significance to it, but at this visual, they actually had a pastor who prayed at the university, which I thought was good and slightly significant. And I just compare it to that of Kylie Rodney and the memorial service they had for her, which was totally freaky, in my opinion. Like, there was a lot of really weird stuff that was going on, Kylie Rodney. And just felt, I got the heebie-jeebies a little bit thinking about it. Hey, Corinza, you're the first to hop aboard our super sticker train this hour. Thank you for that. Danielle, thank you. I really appreciate that. Hey, Sherry, thank you for that super sticker. Really appreciate that. That's 3. Takes us to 3 guys out of 15. We only need 12 more of you. Our number 1 super chat of the day today was $10. I'm wondering also if anybody wants to be the leader of the biggest super chat of the day. $10 is the mark.
The Idaho murders rocked the small town of Moscow, captured the national attention. We'd soon learn that 4 college students were stabbed to death, murdered weeks before Thanksgiving. It would take police thousands of tips, hundreds of interviews before arresting Bryan Kohberger, the suspected killer. Let's go back to November of 2022, when this all started.
First, my deepest condolences to the families. And friends of Ethan, Kaylee, Zena, and Madison. Excuse me. Their loss has been devastating, and they were bright lights in our community.
The 4 victims were found dead around noon on Sunday, November 13th, 2022, in a house just off the University of Idaho's campus after another roommate called police.
The results of autopsies indicated that the 4 were stabbed multiple times and were likely asleep during the attack. Some had defensive wounds, and there was no sign of sexual assault.
Police say all 4 had been out until about 2 that morning before returning home. Documents show Xana Kernodle was awake around 4 a.m. She was on TikTok and ordered food through the app DoorDash. One of the surviving roommates told officers she woke up and heard what she thought was crying from Kernodle's room about 4:17 in the morning. A security camera about 50 feet from the wall of Kernodle's bedroom picked up distorted audio of what sounded like a whimper, followed by a loud thud and a dog barking. The roommate says she opened her door and saw a man in black clothing and a mask. Court documents say that man walked by her and out of a back sliding glass door. The roommate then locked herself in her room.
At this crime scene, we collected 103 pieces of individual evidence. We took approximately 4,000 photographs. We've conducted multiple 3D scans of the residence, and we have hundreds of hours used by technicians and investigators.
Outside the house, police say the suspect's alleged movements played a big role in connecting him to the crime scene. Using cell phone records and security camera video, investigators determined Kohberger's car and cell phone left the Washington State University campus, where Kohberger lives, at 2:44 a.m. on the night of the murders, headed for Moscow. Investigators say at 2:47 a.m., Kohberger's phone was either turned off or put in airplane mode. It didn't come back on until 4:48 that morning. A white sedan matching Kohberger's Hyundai Elantra was spotted in the area of the murder scene from 3:29 a.m. until 4:20 a.m. Court documents show the vehicle drove by the house 3 times, about 3:30 in the morning, before leaving the road. Then at 4:04, the car returned to the street and parked. Then it left the street at a high rate of speed at about 4:20 in the morning. The suspect's car was spotted back on the Washington State campus at 5:25 a.m. However, that wasn't the first time that Kohberger's car was near the victim's house. Was Kohberger stalking the victims? That's a question investigators sought to answer when they obtained a search warrant for records from Kohberger's cell phone. Court records say on at least 12 occasions prior to the murders, including one time back in August, Kohberger's phone was detected near the murder scene in late evening and early morning hours. 2 weeks into the murder investigation, a break in the case. On November 25th, police asked the public to be on the lookout for a white Hyundai Elantra. On November 29th, a WSU police officer looked up Elantras registered at the school. One of those was Kohberger's. Investigators tracked him from Washington State to Pennsylvania in mid-December in that same car.
Hello, how you doing? How y'all doing today? I will say that we have found an Elantra.
But it was DNA evidence that solidified Kohberger as investigators' prime suspect. The 18-page affidavit says the Idaho State Lab found a single source of male DNA.
Single source of male DNA. Hey, Dominique, thank you. That's the biggest super chat of the day so far. Woo! Really appreciate that. You said, thank you, Tyler, for all you do. I'm so glad I found you during the search for Kylie Rodney. You and your channel have came a long way. God's light shines through you. Stay blessed. Thank you so much for your encouragement, Dominique. That means the world to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm trying to figure out what you're eating in your picture. It looks like a Christmas ornament that says sweetest, but it's Skittles. Is that what it is? You're trying to taste the rainbow? Thank you for your super chat. And hey, Karen, thank you for the 2 pound quid. Thank you for the 2 pound quid. Really appreciate that.
labeled suspect profile on the button snap of a knife sheath left at the crime scene.
The reason DNA is so compelling is because it is a unique signature. Unless you have an identical twin, no one has your exact DNA.
Cece Moore is the chief genetic genealogist with Parabon. She pioneered the genetic technology used in solving cases like the Golden State Killer. The techniques can crack a case with a tiny sample of DNA.
Based on the affidavit in this case, it looks like touch DNA is likely what they had to work with. That's just skin cells.
Kohberger.
I really wish that we could get CC Moore on the channel. Would that not be incredible? I would love to talk with her. By the way, yesterday, guys, I don't know what got into me. Actually, I have some ideas. I was like really sick yesterday, like really sick. And I usually keep my house on like 65, 66 degrees. I was like freezing. I turned my heater all the way up to 75 and I was still freezing. I'm pretty sure I had a fever. I'm not 100% sure, but I just was like thinking something was really wrong for me. And I'll tell you what I was doing. I was taking Lent serious and I was only eating after sunlight, after the sun went down, after sunset. And I learned with some of these long COVID symptoms I have, I started doing some research, the specific diagnosis I have. There was like hundreds of people who posted in the Facebook group that says, do not fast. And I used to fast all the time. I told you guys it's been really hard for me since I've had long COVID. And it's like several people have posted on that Facebook group saying that they've had to be hospitalized after trying to fast. Like several people, like dozens of people who have the diagnosis I have, saying they have to be hospitalized after trying to fast. And I honestly think that that's what was happening to me. Like I was in a really rough situation the past 2.5 days, and I'm not totally feeling 100% today, but I'm feeling a lot better. I'm telling you, yesterday and the day before, something was seriously wrong with me. Like especially yesterday, something was seriously wrong with me. We went ahead and still had Faith Friday, but my goodness, I learned a really tough lesson the really hard way. It threw my body way out of whack, like way out of whack. I could barely stand up. And every time I did stand up, I fell over. So praise God, I made it through and I'm learning some really hard lessons. It was really a rough situation, guys. I learned I'm telling you, it was a tough lesson to learn. And I should have checked the Facebook group with people who've tried to do it before I tried, because a lot of people were hospitalized that had tried fasting like I was. Hey, Barbara George, you said, thank you, Tyler, for giving heart. Oh, thank you for your kindness. Thank you for those words. Really appreciate that. By the way, that's number 6 on our super sticker train. We're shooting for 15. So we only need 9 more of you. I wonder if there's 9 more of you that want to hop aboard and help us out. Honestly, guys, our channel has really been struggling, and YouTube increased the percentage that they take out of things like super thanks and ad revenue and things like that. And so I can't believe they did that. I'm like shocked that they have increased the amount that they take. So we've just been in a kind of a tough situation the past week or so.
Kohberger's affidavit shows that on December 27th, Pennsylvania agents took trash from his parents' home in Albrightsville.
The Supreme Court, the federal Supreme Court, has ruled that when we throw something away, we are abandoning that. So we are abandoning our DNA everywhere we go. And it has been ruled, at least so far, that that's fair game for law enforcement.
That trash was sent to the Idaho State Lab, and within a day, the lab had another profile.
It certainly appears that they retrieved his father's DNA from the trash.
Investigators reporting more than 99.9% of the male population is not expected to be the suspect's biological father.
Those are the ones that we hear in court. Those are the ones we hear law enforcement using as evidence, that there's a 1 in huge number chance that anybody else could be that DNA contributor or be the parent of that DNA contributor.
3 days after the investigators went through the trash, Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home on December 30th. Early on, police learned Kohberger had an above-average understanding of police investigative tactics. According to court records, Kohberger's past education included undergraduate degrees in psychology, cloud-based forensics.
He was definitely well-mannered, very intelligent.
He received his associate's degree in psychology at Northampton Community College in Pennsylvania in 2018. He then went on to DeSales University, also in Pennsylvania, for his bachelor's degree. Then his
So he could be a sociopath and he got a degree in sociology. He could be a psychopath and he got a degree in psychology. And he could be a criminal and he got a degree in criminal justice. How ironic is that? He got an associate's degree in sociology, could be a sociopath. Got a bachelor's degree in psychology, could be a psychopath. Got a master's degree in criminal justice, could be a criminal. That's crazy. Hey, Southern Sass 51, how are you? Thank you for that super chat. Really appreciate that. Thanks for hopping aboard our super sticker train. That's number 7. 7 out of 15. We only need 8 more people.
master's in criminal justice. He studied under renowned criminal psychologist Catherine Ramsland, whose books include The Mind of a Murderer and How to Catch a Killer.
He was definitely selectively quiet. I think once you got him going on something that he was interested in, it was very clear that that was where he would take the initiative and say, hey, here's how much I know about this thing.
In May, just before he graduated, authorities confirmed he posted this Reddit survey asking participants to, quote, provide information to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime. He asked questions like, how did you leave the scene? How did you accomplish your goal? And how did you approach the victim? Investigators also now know Kohberger applied for an internship.
I kind of think he had been approved for that internship, to be honest. A little piece of me thinks Pullman had hired him to be an intern for them maybe starting in January, and they haven't released that information and are refusing to. Hey, David Peck, how are you? Thank you for that super chat. Really appreciate that. You know what that means? You have just taken the lead by 1 penny, the number 1 super chat of the day. You beat Dominique, who is the sweetest ant tasting the rainbow. You beat her by 1 penny, David. Thank you for your super chat. Hey, Sherry, you said tell her get well soon. Thank you so much. I'll use all the prayers I can get. Thank you for praying for me. Really appreciate that. Neil Nelson coming in hot. Thank you, Neil Nelson, for gifting those memberships. One of our favorite things that we do around here is have Feller Fam memberships. And when you join the Feller Fam, it gives you access to our private Facebook group for paid members of this channel. That's where a lot of the action is we have daily conversations and discussions about a variety of topics, including cases that we're covering, including birthdays. For every single person we celebrate your birthday, we put you on our map called the Feller Fam map. We talk about faith-based issues, and sometimes I'll post on there as well. So if you guys are joining the Feller Fam, if you were gifted a membership or you're a paid member and you're not a part of our Facebook group, you need to go to Facebook and type in Feller Fam, find our Facebook group, and then request to be a part of it. Neil, thank you so much for your generosity. It really means a lot.
With the Pullman Police Department in the fall of 2022, Kohberger wrote in his essay he had interest in assisting rural law enforcement agencies collect and analyze technological data in public safety operations. During his time at Washington State University, Kohberger was listed as the teaching assistant for 3 undergrad classes in the Criminal Justice Department. He completed 1 semester in WSU's PhD program before he was arrested.
You never expect someone to do that, and I think it would be, not truthful to say like, oh yeah, I definitely saw it coming, but like really thinking about it, like it's not that surprising.
Kohberger was extradited to Idaho January 4th. He remains behind bars without bail.
A criminal complaint was filed yesterday here in Latah County, charging the defendant, Mr. Kohberger, with 4 counts of first-degree murder, in addition to felony burglary.
The next step in the legal process is a preliminary hearing, where prosecutors present evidence and witnesses in an open court. The judge will also decide whether to send the case to district court. That hearing is set for the week of June 26th. Kohberger will then have an arraignment hearing where he will enter a plea of guilty or not guilty.
If the prosecutors and the defendants want to, they can engage in plea negotiations. Otherwise, both sides will begin to prepare their case for trial. Unclear how quickly a trial could occur.
So how strong is the case against Kohberger?
What the police have done here is generated a host of circumstantial pieces of evidence. So, we have a car here, we have a sheath here, we have a surveillance footage at this time, and we have this. And together, that overall circle paints a picture of we can put this person here at this particular time when these happen.
What we don't know yet is if Moscow police have found the murder weapon, likely a knife similar to this one, or if they've confirmed a motive. But University of Idaho Assistant Professor of Law Sam Newton says it's safe to assume they're still gathering evidence, meaning new tips are still helpful.
They think they have enough to sustain at least an arrest and moving forward there. They may not feel like they have enough to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And so releasing the name of a suspect to the public allows the police to get more information to solidify their case.
Newton says the defense may consider options like asking to move the case to another jurisdiction and will comb through the other tips collected. If Kohberger were to be convicted, sentencing could range up to the death penalty.
The maximum penalty for this offense, if you were to plead guilty or be found guilty, is death or imprisonment for life. Do you understand?
Yes. Lethal injection is permitted in some cases in the state of Idaho and Latah County. Prosecutor Bill Thompson will ultimately make the determination of whether or not the death penalty is pursued here. But he's not talking.
We are limited on what we are allowed by the courts to say outside of the courtroom.
The court's gag order means investigators can't release information until the facts are exposed in court or in public documents.
There appear to be indications that the magistrate judge does have some concerns about information that could be released to the public and therefore prevent
She's like smiling too much as she's saying this. It's kind of strange.
us from finding an unbiased jury for this case.
Experts have pointed to holes in the case. Still, the prosecuting attorney is expressing optimism.
This is not the end of this investigation. In fact, this is a new beginning.
We're in eastern Pennsylvania. Bryan Kohberger spent his teenage years and most of his adult life here. That includes stints at 2 local colleges, including DeSales. Now, police and prosecutors in this area want to know what he was up to all those years and are digging into their cold case files.
Just outside the open wilderness and resort towns of the Pocono Mountains lies a neighborhood called the Birches.
It's just a very quiet community.
These are the streets an accused killer once roamed as a teenager.
How do they know he roamed the streets? That's what I'm wondering. Hey, Neil, thank you so much for that. That takes for that super sticker. That takes us to 10 on our super sticker train. Amazing blessing, guys. We're only 5 away from reaching our super sticker goal. I'm wondering if we can get 5 more to reach our goal in the next 5 minutes. Be amazing blessing. Can 5 more of you in the next 5 minutes hop aboard our super sticker train?
I've definitely seen it on TV. Who hasn't?
Now, Lynn Klein and others in the Pennsylvania communities where Bryan Kohberger lived until last year want to know if he could have committed any crimes before he was charged with the murders at the University of Idaho.
Because anybody or any family that's been harmed or done wrong to deserves to know the truth.
It isn't just citizens. Police and prosecutors have asked the same question.
Your natural reaction is to start wondering, okay, is this guy wanted? Is his name out there? Did he do anything here in Northampton County?
I haven't been asking the question, is he wanted? Did he do anything in Northampton County? Because we would have known if he was wanted. For him to even go to school for a PhD in criminal justice, he had to have a level 2 FBI security background check. You can't let somebody into your PhD program into the criminal justice department if they have a criminal background. It's just not allowed. And so this was a level 2. They had to do a level 2 FBI security background check on him, which he clearly passed in order to get into the program. So my question's not, Is this man wanted? I can't believe that the district attorney in Northampton's even saying that. It's like the dumbest question. Here's the question that I think they should be saying. Is his DNA out there? Do we have an unsolved case that Bryan Kohberger's DNA could match to now that we have access to his DNA? Was there a murder that took place in the past 8 years since Bryan Kohberger was 20, or maybe even 10 years since he was 18, or maybe even 12 years since he was 16, that we have never been able to solve, but yet we have a piece of DNA and we can see if that matches that of Bryan Kohberger? That is really the question to be asking. Hey, Amy Heights, thank you for hopping aboard. Jolene, thank you for your super sticker. Takes us to 12. Hey, we only need 3 more. If we can get 3 more people in the next 3 minutes to hop aboard our super sticker train, that would be amazing.
Terrence Houck is district attorney of Northampton County and leads an office of more than 20 prosecutors and a half dozen detectives. It's here at Northampton Community College where Bryan Kohberger took his first courses in higher education, graduating here in 2018. After Kohberger's arrest for the Idaho murders, Northampton County's district attorney ordered a review of unsolved cases in his county.
We have a crime information center that compiles information of people's description, size, weight, height, method of operation, things of that nature.
Obviously, you wonder whether or not there was any criminality that he committed here in Lehigh County or in the environs.
Jim Martin, district attorney of the neighboring county, Lehigh, also ordered a review of unsolved cases. Lehigh County is home to DeSales University, which Kohberger attended after Northampton Community College. He spent 4 years here studying criminal justice.
Bryan Kohberger,
earning a master's degree last summer. What does law enforcement do given that he did spend time here?
Well, we have a resource here called the Regional Intelligence and Investigation Center. It's the first thing I did was I asked the director of the RIC, as we call it, to see if we had any contact with Mr. Kohberger.
A data search of more than 6 million police incident reports in Pennsylvania turned up only one record with Kohberger's name. He called police from this bike trail one night to report that his car was locked behind a park gate.
There was a response from him thanking the police and apologizing for the inconvenience.
The district attorney in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, where Kohberger grew up and where a SWAT team arrested him on December 30th.
What's interesting about Kohberger in that picture right there is his eyes are still a little bit like on the creepier side, but they're not that bad. That picture is like the most normal picture of Bryan Kohberger I think I've seen. All the other pictures of Bryan Kohberger, I'm like, that man does not look normal. And it's not trying to be judgmental, but you can tell a lot sometimes by the way somebody looks. You can look at somebody often and tell if they're on certain types of drugs. You can look at somebody oftentimes and see if they have evil in their eyes. You can look at somebody and tell that they're really unhealthy, that there's something physiologically going on in their body that's not right. And you, in the case of Bryan Kohberger, oftentimes, in my opinion, through pictures can look and see that through the sliding glass of what happened at 1122 King Road, there was a man who not just had visual snow syndrome, but had some level of antisocial disorder, which could have been psychopathy or sociopathy or Machiavellianism or narcissism or sadistic behavior or a combination of all of the above, which led him to a very evil place. And this picture right there is one of the only normal-ish looking photos that I think I've ever seen of him. This is my first time ever hearing what they just said too, by the way. And I can't think of any case that we've covered more than the Bryan Kohberger case since November. I mean, we have been covering this case a million times, and I've never heard that in Pennsylvania they only had one record of him, and the record was he was locked behind a fence. Don't know how that happened, and he called and apologized for being an inconvenience. Sounds like a pretty polite gesture to me. So hey, Annette, thank you so much for that super sticker. Really appreciate your support. What a blessing. Thank you. We're only 2 away from reaching our super sticker goal this hour. Sherry, thank you. That takes us 1 away. Say a prayer for the next news network. YouTube has them demonetized. See, we need to pray. You're exactly right, Lacey. I'll be praying for them. I don't know who they are, but YouTube needs to sort of back off of that, demonetizing people, in my opinion.
Did not respond to our questions. But in Northampton and Lehigh counties, both district attorneys say their investigations have found no links to Kohberger and any unsolved cases.
So we have no unsolved homicides that in any way meet the modus operandi of this event out in Idaho.
There was nothing been brought to my attention. In fact, nothing with respect to Kohberger has come about in our investigations of cold cases or unsolved cases to this point.
And that should be some relief to a community that's been stunned and saddened by the murders of 4 college students 2,500 miles away.
It's a little close to home. You just don't expect it.
In December, people here were hit by a fact as cold and hard as steel, the once towering industry that fueled this part of Pennsylvania. One of their own was charged in a mass murder 2,500 miles away.
So I looked it up. I typed, Idaho murders, and then like, holy crap, that's Bryan. That's Bryan. I know Bryan. That's wild to me. It's a shock, seeing someone you've known on TV.
Wow, that's interesting. I don't think I've seen an interview with this guy either. Hey, Oli37, for a second I almost called you Oil. Sorry for that. Oli37, thank you. Hey, Tora, Michelle, love the elephants. Really appreciate that.
Jack Bayless met Bryan Kohberger in 8th grade when the two of them ran with a group of boys in this neighborhood near Albrightsville, Pennsylvania.
I want to say he wanted to be a cop since he was younger.
What kind of teenager was he?
He was pretty normal. He was definitely heavier set, and that caused issues in school, apparently.
But in high school, dramatic changes washed over Kohberger.
It's interesting that like one of the most distinctive characteristics that anybody from his younger years sort of make about him is that he was definitely heavy set. I think that that's so fascinating. Why is that the thing that everybody wants to talk about, unless it was this thing that was like so wrapped up into being a huge part of his identity? Was he known as the big guy and the fat guy or something like that? I think that that's really sad for anybody. And I don't know exactly, and nobody knows. It's not just me. There's a lot of theories out there why some people that are born either with psychopathy or sociopath, it can develop into something that is really negative, that has drastic evil effects on society. And I would say, in large part, those things develop when they've experienced some things to push them into a negative corner. And in the case of Bryan Kohberger, he was overweight. He was often picked on for being overweight. And in the middle of him being overweight and often picked on, he was picked on by the beautiful, popular girls in the school. That's been repeated again and again. Hey, True Crime Geek, you said, thank you for all you do. Tyler, God bless you. God bless you. Thank you. Hey, J Doe, really appreciate your super sticker. It means a lot. Thank you for your support.
According to several friends, including Bayless.
I believe it was the weight loss first. And I was, I want to say 14 to maybe 16, between there was the big weight loss. I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And then it was the drugs.
How did he get started in drugs?
He got in drugs via an acquaintance of his. It was definitely heroin. It was pretty gnarly.
Bayless doesn't know exactly when Kohberger got clean.
Last I saw him, he was pretty lucid.
But the two reconnected after Kohberger enrolled.
What does that mean, to be pretty lucid?
Enrolled at DeSales University in Center Valley, right around the corner from Bayless's home. Kohberger's major, criminology.
He's always been kind of fascinated with kind of how the brain works and how people think and why they do what they do.
And so my senior year, I ended up in a biology class, which is where I met and interacted with Bryan Kohberger.
What were your first impressions of the guy?
Bryan seemed normal enough.
But that opinion did not last for Bernard James.
Normal enough. It's interesting that Bernard James is like, yeah, he's normal enough, but just a couple of minutes ago, he's like, looking back, you could definitely see that he could do something like this in retrospect. That's crazy. What does it mean, easy to understand? Easy to understand. Lucid. Lucid means sober. Means not high. See, there's just things I don't know.
A DeSales film student in 2018 when he attended a class with Kohberger.
One of the big parts of that biology class that we were in, we had a group project as a part of our final grade.
With 4 DeSales classmates on the project, Kohberger was chosen as team leader. Not surprising for the student DeSales professor Michelle Bolger called brilliant and one of the best students ever, according to an article in the Daily Mail. Dr. Bolger declined to comment to King 5. But to some classmates at the Christian University, Kohberger seemed more like a know-it-all.
The way that he came across in his speech, you know, kind of person who has to use big words, you know, the one always raising his hand in class.
And what happened then towards the end of this whole thing?
We're approaching the due date, and I was feeling like I was left out to dry.
Bernard James says Kohberger completed the class project without including him, resulting in a failed class in Bernard's final year at DeSales. He confronted Kohberger in the university library.
I remember him being very straight-faced, very like almost emotionless.
So is he saying that he and Kohberger were on a project together and Kohberger ended up completing the project without him? Listen, I've been in some of these projects with folks before, and I hated in high school. I didn't mind it because usually you were with friends. I hated when I was in college and they put me in groups with people that I've never met before. I like to get good grades, and I'm with people that could care less about getting an A on a project. I hated that. I hated that getting put in a group. And so I'm not throwing any shade at Bryan Kohberger for being in a situation where he wanted to get a good grade on a project and his partner was sort of sucking it up. And then this guy ends up failing the class. And so now he's confronting Kohberger in the library over it. This guy, if Bryan Kohberger is a killer, this guy's lucky he's alive, possibly. Who knows?
With this, you kind of like a small smile on his face. Like there's more to him than it seems. Very intense stare. I remember that. I'll never forget that. Looking right into my soul almost, you know, as we were having this back and forth. Yeah, manipulative, cold.
Was he witnessing an odd personality trait or something more? After Kohberger's arrest, Bernard can't be sure.
I mean, it's not every day you expect to come into contact with someone who's accused of something like that, you know, but I see it in some ways.
This is interesting, Bernard James. I wonder if we can get him on the show. Can anybody find his social media accounts or email address and send it to me? And I'd be more than happy to try to get him on the show. By the way, guys, you ever heard that phrase? It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Well, guess what? The 5 o'clock that it is somewhere, it's Nashville, Tennessee. And beautiful time for it to be 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. Central Time Zone. It means that we are heading into our very last hour of the program today, which means we're going to do a very short, what Amy Heights, our moderator and Super Sticker Train Conductor, calls a bullet train, which means we're going to try to get as many on the Super Sticker Train as we possibly can. I have a feeling that we can get 12 super stickers on this final train in the next 12 minutes. If you guys want to be a part of what we call the bullet train, now is the time. Don't hold back. The biggest super sticker of the day so far came from David. It's 20 buckaroonies. I'd love it if somebody wants to beat out David for the #1 super sticker of the day. Neil Nelson hopping on that bullet train. Thank you, Neil, for that support. Tom says, I still feel that there's someone else involved. Does he have an accomplice? That's a great question, and that's not one that I would be surprised about. You said, I think he drove south of Moscow to drop off an accomplice. Only time will reveal the layers. I am totally interested in that theory. I would not at all for half of a millisecond be surprised if there's an accomplice. I'll tell you that much right now. By the way, we're trying to get to 12 on our bullet train. That takes us to 2. We're only 10 away. So believe it or not, 10 of you guys, that's it. What's his name? I forgot his name. As soon as his name pops back up, I'll tell you.
You know, I see the calculated side of him.
We're talking about 4 vicious stabbings here.
Yeah.
Could your friend have done this?
I hope he didn't do it. You know, I'm a big believer in innocent until proven guilty. So I hope someone I know didn't do that, you know.
Here in Pennsylvania, we've been unable to reach anyone from Kohberger's family. A public defender here who represented him during extradition proceedings has said that Kohberger looks forward to being exonerated in Idaho.
You just couldn't ask for better kids.
Ooh, this is where it gets heartbreaking. I'm going to try to rewind so we can tell you that guy's name real fast. Southern gal. But this is going to be where it gets heartbreaking. Golly. I'm just looking down at the bottom where it says his name.
Murderer and How to Catch a
Here he is right there. This is his first time coming on, I think. So maybe we'll put his name. Or not. Oh, here it is. Bernard James. Former classmate Bernard James. That's his name, Southern gal. This is about to be where it gets super heartbreaking. I can tell you that much right now. Super heartbreaking. Hey, JC. Woo! Southern gal says it's baby back, rib o'clock there in Arkansas. Hey, Amy Heights, thank you for hopping aboard. Merrill Lees, thank you for hopping aboard. Appreciate you guys. That takes us to 6 out of 12. Hey, this bullet train's moving along, guys. Can we get 6 more of you to hop aboard? Don't forget other ways that you can support are through PayPal, which is Tyler Feller. CashApp, my favorite way because there's no fees on it. It's $ Tyler Feller 22. Venmo, it's at Tyler-Feller. Zelle, press at tylerfeller.com. Or you can give other ways through that are non-financial, just from hitting like the like button or subscribing to this channel.
Dave Hayton considered Ethan Chapin family, all the Chapin kids actually. He and his wife watched them grow up in their Conway neighborhood and treated them like grandchildren. They'd come over for fudge sickles from the basement freezer. When the couple heard what had happened, they were crushed.
She's crying. And she says, Ethan's been murdered. Yeah. I just couldn't, you just can't get your head around it.
Ethan was a triplet. They attended the Conway School before moving on to Mount Vernon High, where Ethan played on the basketball team and graduated in 2019. The siblings were close. They even went to college together. Ethan and his brother were members of the same fraternity.
We have these other 2 kids that are very impacted by this, and they need to be lifted up and cared for.
Ethan's parents say Ethan was the comedian of the family and was a lover of country music and sports. What did Ethan like to do?
Anything. You name it, he played it, literally. I think we just watched a thing from the university, spike ball champion, volleyball champion. I mean, he just literally would play and do anything.
Ethan's girlfriend, Xana Kernodle, was one of the other victims, and they were in the same room in the house. Ethan's parents say they just saw him the weekend before the murders at the University of Idaho's Parents' Weekend and felt so proud and at ease.
As we pulled out of Moscow, we literally were like, we've done it. We've literally done it as parents. We've created 3 incredible humans.
I love this family. I love the Chapin family. She said, we've done it. We created 3 incredible humans.
We'll go on.
But now the future looks much different, and Ethan's future gone. Now their focus is on supporting Ethan's 2 other siblings and keeping his light alive.
If everybody was like Ethan Chapin in this world, it would be a better place.
A loving sister. Xana was such a light in my life and so many others. She was the person I could relate to the most, and she knew and understood me more than anyone.
A wise daughter.
She taught me a lot of stuff.
She taught me how to be a dad.
Xana Kernodle's sister Jasmine remembers her as someone who could lift up a room.
She was so positive and lighthearted and understood the gift of life more than anyone I know.
Xana was originally from Avondale, Arizona. Her family later moved to Post Falls, Idaho. She played volleyball, soccer, and track at Post Falls High School. Xana went on to attend the University of Idaho. She pledged the Pi Beta Phi sorority and was majoring in marketing. According to an obituary in the Bonner County Daily Bee, Xana loved listening to electronic dance music and going on family trips with her sister and father.
She was my baby sister, but she was so much wiser and experienced so much more in life than I ever have. She never let an opportunity pass her by and enjoyed all the moments she had.
At the University of Idaho, Xana lived in a rental house with 5 other women. One of her roommates, Madison Mogan, was also her co-worker at the Mad Greek restaurant.
I know she loved living in her house in Moscow with her friends. I would hear so many stories about her and her roommates, and it made me so happy to know she had such great friendships.
She was dating Ethan Chapin, her first boyfriend.
They were always so happy, and the way she would talk and smile about him was something I've never seen her do before. She truly loved him so much, and I know he had so much love for her. They had something so special, and everyone around them knew.
And Xana's loss has left those around her heartbroken.
Xana, you will not be forgotten. You have impacted so many lives and have given people so much love. I hope I can make you proud and try to leave an impact on this world and on people like you did.
Being comfy, cute pink things, smiling.
I feel like Maddie's the one that we know the least about, or at least I do. It makes me feel really bad for Maddie right now, just thinking about that. There's been a lot of coverage about Kaylee Gonzalez. There's been a lot of most coverage about Kaylee Gonzalez than anyone. There's been a lot of coverage about Xana. There's been a lot of coverage about Ethan. And it feels like Maddie was sort of looked over in a lot of ways. And if I've done that, I apologize in this situation. If I haven't done a great job of honoring the legacy of Maddie, I apologize to you guys, the people watching, because I really feel like she's got the least amount of coverage from people in this case. It's so sad to me. I really like Madison's dad. I really like him. Ben, is his name right? Really like him.
Dancing and laughing. These are just some of the things Madison Mogan's friends and family remember that the 21-year-old loved.
It's just always making the best of every situation.
Maddie, as she was known, was from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Maddie was such an easygoing, loving child growing up.
Her family says she was inquisitive and curious. Big Steelers fans, her stepfather Scott Laramie shares a favorite memory from Maddie's time growing up.
Just watching the game with her, and every time the Steelers scored, I'd pick her up and I'd hold her high in the air and we'd celebrate together, and she'd always just laugh so hard at that.
Maddie grew up in northern Idaho with her best friend Kaylee Gonzalez.
They were inseparable from the 6th grade on. The two of them were a force not to be reckoned with. They stuck together through everything.
Maddie loved to travel, especially with Kaylee and her family.
They were sisters. She was one of ours.
At the University of Idaho, Maddie was majoring in marketing. She worked at the Mad Greek restaurant and was using her marketing skills to run a social media campaign for the eatery. She was also a member of the Pi Beta Phi sorority. Her freshman year, Maddie met her boyfriend, Jake Schreiger. The couple dated for 2 years.
Maddie was my best friend. She was the first person I talked to every morning and the last person I talked to before bed.
Jake says Maddie knew her worth. She was beautiful, inside and out. And if you needed a shoulder to cry on, that was Maddie too.
Maddie was the best at spreading love to all those that were close to her.
Kaylee Gonzalez leaves a big void in her big family. Growing up in Rathdrum, Idaho, they describe her as the ultimate middle child.
She was always competitive. There was never a day that she didn't want to race her brother because she was just determined that girls were faster than boys, or that she didn't want to go bug her little sisters and make sure they knew that she was older.
Smack dab in the middle of 5 kids, Kaylee's mother, Christy, can't imagine what the family will be like without her.
The dynamics of the family will never be the same.
The 21-year-old was a senior at the University of Idaho. She was majoring in general studies. According to an obituary in the Coeur d'Alene Press, she was studying to become an elementary school teacher. Kaylee had a heart for adventure, was known for playing pranks on her family. She also loved her mini golden doodle Murphy, who her family says was her fur baby. Her sister Olivia says Kaylee was tough and fair, didn't hold back in love, fights, or life.
We'll miss that gift that she brought to us every single day, and she was a little ornery too, so we'll miss that as well.
Kaylee's father, Steve, smiles as he reflects on her love of country music and concerts. Her love of her best friend, Madison Mogan. She grew up alongside Madison. She died alongside her too.
They were beyond sisters, because sisters are, you kind of forced to get along. These two didn't, they weren't forced. They were just like yin and yang.
The national spotlight may be on the suspect, but Steve wants to keep the focus on the beautiful lives lost. Moving forward, he's also working on forgiveness.
We're not going to walk around with darkness in our heart for the rest of our lives and, have his name written there like a tattoo on our consciousness. So yeah, you have to forget. At least I feel you have to forgive. Otherwise, it's just a cancer inside you, and I'm not willing to live with that inside me.
There's still a long way to go until the Moscow Police Department can claim a conviction. Bryan Kohberger's case is working its way through the legal system. Meanwhile, for the families of Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan, they're just beginning the long process of healing. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Sebastian Robertson.
Whew, that was really an emotional roller coaster we just went on for the past 12 minutes. Mamma mia. That was really tough watching and listening to. Hey, Amy Heights, thank you for hopping aboard our super sticker train. We're on a bullet train at 7. We're trying to get to 12. We only need 5 more people. We're probably only going to be on the air for about 5 more minutes. So hopefully we can get 5 more of you hopping aboard, helping us out in the next 5 minutes. Now, here's another thing about Bryan Kohberger I didn't know, and I maybe should have known this. It's an article that I found that said Bryan Kohberger completed high school online for reasons that remain unclear. I might do a video about this tomorrow or something, but I didn't know this. So Donna tells the Idaho Statesman that 28-year-old PhD student transitioned to online learning after spending his sophomore and junior years in a tech program offered by a school. Bryan Kohberger did not attend classes at his Pennsylvania high school during his senior year and instead earned his diploma through an online course. I can't believe I didn't know that. Did you guys know that? Hey, Corinza. Hey, Corinza, you were the first to hop aboard the super sticker train. That's so amazing. Of the whole day, and you might be one of the last. That's so awesome. I really appreciate your support. That's number 8 out of 12. We only need 4 more people to hop aboard. Welcome to Kohberger, home of the Kohberger. Can I take your order? According to former guidance counselor, Donna told the Idaho Statesman the 28-year-old student transitioned to online learning after spending his sophomore and junior years in a tech program. Administrators would not say whether Kohberger or school administrators made the decision to remove Kohberger from in-person learning. Tanya, a former tech school administrator who oversaw student discipline, said that she met with Kohberger in her official capacity prior to his transition. She said she could not speak about why Kohberger left the program, but said that a student could choose to leave or be asked to leave due to disciplinary action. Sometimes, depending on the disciplinary offense and any issues surrounding it, it may not be the student's choice to be removed from a program. The thing I'm wondering is, what program was he in? Like, he seemed to be brilliant. That's what everybody says. And guys, you have to be smart. You have to have a level of intelligence in order to get into a PhD program. You have to have a level of an IQ to get into a PhD program. There's no doubt about it. Hey, Long Island, New York. Woo! Thank you for hopping aboard. Only 3 more people needed. In general, a student can be very strong academically and perform very well in clinical work, but 1 or more infractions would take an opportunity to participate in the program away. Kohberger enrolled in the law enforcement program at the district's technical school during sophomore year. And then, okay, that's what it was. He switched to the HVAC program during his junior year. I don't see Bryan Kohberger as an HVAC kind of a guy. Sure don't. Hey, Madeline, thank you for that super sticker. Really appreciate that. Veronica, thank you. Woo! We're only 1 away. I wonder who's going to be the one to finish off the bullet train. I just don't see Bryan Kohberger, who's in the PhD program, as a part. Would you guys see that? That's never one thing that I would have ever imagined Bryan Kohberger to have been a part of is the HVAC program. Associate's degree, maybe a sociopath having an associate's degree in sociology. Maybe a psychopath having a bachelor's degree in psychology. Maybe a criminal having a master's degree in criminology. I never realized he wanted to be an HVAC person. HVAC is just your heating and air conditioning unit. That's what it stands for, heating and air conditioning. I don't know what the V stands for, but essentially it's like your big unit you have sitting outside of your house that you like on your wall. You just like boop, 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 72, and then it just warms your house up to 72. The law enforcement program trains students to be a police officer, firefighter, or EMT, but barred certain behaviors. It's unclear if Kohberger chose to leave the law enforcement program or was asked to leave. Wow, that's shocking, guys. I didn't know that he was a part of the law enforcement program and didn't make the cut. Wow. He got kicked out of the law enforcement program. Yazwiak said that Kohberger had been a good student with parents, took an active interest in his education, and both worked for the school. His mother had been a teacher's aide and his father a maintenance worker. He said, I recall no problems. He was a regular kid, and thankfully his parents were involved in his education. I don't recall anything out of the ordinary. Really? Kohberger's friends from that time said that the close of his high school career and the years that follow were marked by marijuana habit graduating into a heroin addiction. Is marijuana a gateway drug? Is that what that's saying? That is also when he began an intense workout routine that resulted in him losing half of his body weight and being hospitalized for an eating disorder. Honestly, I feel like he was looking for validation, and that's why he fell into that crowd. And honestly, is why he fell into the drug scene. Drugs goofed him up. He was having a hard time. He said, I'm clean now. I'm totally clean now. And he'd be bleeding, and he'd have bleeding track marks. Somebody explain to me what that is. What's a bleeding track mark? Hey, Lisa, thank you for your super sticker. Woo! Really appreciate that. Thank you for your support. Guys, what's a bleeding track mark? I don't know what it is. Lisa, this is your first ever super chat. Woo! I really appreciate that. Your first ever super chat. That means the world. Thank you for your support. Track marks is from where you use needles, from shooting up. See, I didn't know that, guys. It's from where you inject heroin. I really am not very smart when it comes to drugs. Injection site, dude. Yep. Found that out. He told one friend he had stopped using in 2016 and gotten his life back on track. Kohberger did seem to turn his life around at the time, and in August of 2022, began working on his PhD. Then in the early morning hours of November 13th, he allegedly drove across the state border and murdered Ethan, Xana, Kaylee, and Madison. Kohberger, who told the public defendant assigned to handle his extradition from Pennsylvania to Idaho he expects to be exonerated at trial, is now being held without bail. He faces 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. Mamma mia, guys. What a crazy story. Mamma mia, guys. Mamma mia, guys. Mamma mia. Mamma mia, guys. Hey, Crystal, thank you for that super sticker. Really appreciate that. So, last call for you guys to put in the comment section what you think they should put in place of the house that was there. And there's one more video I want to show you, and then that's going to be the end of our stream for today. I'm really curious about what you guys think they should do with the house. That means a lot, Crystal. Thank you for your super sticker. They're knocking down that 1122 King Road house. And dog park seems like a great idea because of Murphy. People have been saying gardens. I'm not quite sure what I think about a garden going there because it's snowing most of the time from the video footage. Hey, Debbie Campbell, you said it's almost like he was trying to figure out who he was. He knew he wasn't normal, but didn't necessarily have support because his parents didn't know. Yeah, I don't think his parents realized what he was dealing with. And they say intelligence is passed down genetically. So it's so interesting. Like there are certainly things that happen that like can really impact your intelligence. And one of them is like exposure to different cultures. It seems like from research, people who've had exposures to different types of cultures have a higher IQ, and that exposure should happen when you're really young. However, most studies also say that your intelligence is directly related to the intelligence of your parents. The study actually says that the firstborn child 9 out of 10 times has the higher IQ. I don't know if that's true or not. But that's literally what the studies have shown. But that the intelligence of your parents passed down. Bryan Kohberger has a level of intelligence. I wonder which of his parents, if not both, was he able to inherit that from. His sister's a therapist. I don't know what his other sister does, but they said she works in the mental health field. And so I'm just a little bit curious about his parents, Debbie. You've intrigued me. You've hit the button of intrigue on me. Hey, Amy Heights, thank you so much for that. Really appreciate that. Talk to you later, Southern Gal. What? Say that again. What am I going to say again, Debbie? I don't know what you mean. Bye to Southern Gal? Say that again.
Is it something that his defense attorney should do? Should they ask for a change of venue? Should the prosecutors? I can't see that happening. But I'll tell you what, Mark O'Mara knows a thing or two about change of venue, high-profile clients, and criminal defense strategy, because he represented George Zimmerman, and that was a tricky, tricky case with a very, well, should we say electrified jury pool? Mark, what are your thoughts about the Idaho case and a change of venue, especially in the age of the internet, where I keep saying the world is flat? You could be in northern Idaho, southern Idaho. Everybody kind of knows all the same news. Is there anything to it anymore?
There's really not as much as there used to be. You know, in the day.
Oh, what's Ashley Banfield doing? Trying to stick up for her own mistakes of letting the cat out of the bag a few too many times? Is what it sounds like to me.
Days of papers. Sure, if you were out of town or Tampa from Orlando, then you could probably have a different venue and a different jury pool. But you're right, Ashley, with today, the internet, everything is everywhere. So the idea of moving it a mile or 300 miles really doesn't have the same effect. So generally speaking, what we say now is if you can get a jury anywhere, you can get it in your hometown. You just have to do a good job picking the jury.
Okay, so there, you know, the possibilities in Idaho. Listen, Idaho can be pretty rural, and it's tricky even to find a public defender, as we've come to learn, because, you know, the public defender, Ann Taylor, is embattled with her potential conflict of interest claims, right? Because she represented 3 parents of the victims. Okay, but in this particular case, Moscow, if you drive north, you can get to Coeur d'Alene in about, I think, 80 miles. If you drive south, you can get to Lewiston in about 30 miles. And then if you really want to drive for a couple hundred miles, you can get to Boise. So there's your map. And I suppose there's other, you know, jurisdictions along the way, but But I guess the other question is, logistically, is there a problem with expenses? Where you're going to house this guy? Where the lawyer's going to have to drive back and forth? Could you pull a jury, say, from Boise and bring them up to Moscow like they did in the Casey Anthony case? They brought a jury from a different jurisdiction in, and they bust them in for the trial.
Yeah, those are all possibilities. Look, if I was the defense attorney, I would ask for a change of venue just because, if for no other reason, if it gets granted, great. If it gets denied, it's an appellate issue upon conviction. So there's one strategic reason to do it. But yes, there is the logistics of it. We talked about, Zimmerman, Ashley, you and I talked about whether or not we should change venue. And a little selfishness, I wanted to sleep in my own bed that every night of that trial. So there's those logistics of being in there. But yes, you can drag a jury from Boise, let's say, up to Moscow or the other way around. And there's a lot of extra expense, a lot of extra trouble with it. But again, in today's day and age, I just know that there's not going to be a significant change. You still have to vet those jurors that all know about it, but can set it aside and deal with the evidence in the courtroom alone. Going to be tough with that case.
Can you do me a huge favor? I have no time left, but I just want 20 seconds on what Ann Taylor is discussing with her client right now. And your best guess.
With the forensics as they are, what she really needs to be figuring out, whether he agrees or not, is a mitigation for how they're going to try and avoid death penalty / life in prison, because obviously he has some mental health concerns that are going to be the only way that he may not die in prison.
Whoa, mental health, forget it. Oh man, I mean, I have seen people who are drooling in court and they can't get anything with regard to their mental health to be, mitigating for their cases, especially I think in a place like Idaho. That's going to be a tough road to hoe. Hey, Mark O'Mara, as always, I just love it when you come on because you just know all the answers. Thank you for this.
Great to see you. Be well.
Thank you for.
Okay, folks. Woo! Sherry Renee. Mamma mia. Thank you for that super chat. Really appreciate your support. And thank you. I think Ashley Banfield's trying to cover for her own self, knowing that if they're unable to get a fair trial, it's likely because she's leaking information out. I don't know what to say about that other than that's the truth. Heavenly Cloud says Ashley went from reporter to gossiper. It's what it feels like to me. I mean, realistically, it's in a lot of ways exactly what it feels like to me. Hey, guys, I'm going to pray for you. If you want to support our channel, we're totally crowdfunded. We take a portion of everything that comes in. We put it in what we call our benevolence fund, and we support people in short-term financial hardships. We have people nearly every day either messaging me or filling out our benevolence request form that need financial assistance. If you're interested in helping, a portion of everything that comes in goes to support that. You can support through PayPal, CashApp, $TylerFeller22, Venmo at Tyler-Feller, or through Super Sticker or Super Chat. I'm going to pray for you as we end the stream today. Father, I thank you for every single person that's gathered in this space and place today. Lord, I pray you bless them with your supernatural power, supernatural peace. And Lord, we pray for the families that are victims themselves of this evil atrocity. And I pray that justice will prevail. And Lord, I pray things that are hidden in darkness will come to light. And bless them with your supernatural closeness and peace in Jesus' name. Amen. Guys, thank you for being a part of the stream today. Do me a favor as soon as we end the stream. If you don't mind refreshing and commenting on this video, that makes a significant difference. Thank you for being with us.